Hello, my name is Laureen Gallimore, and I want to discuss about deaf education today. I am a teacher and also a trainer, so I've been involved in the deaf community for many years now. I myself grew up in the deaf education system. I graduated and then moved on to become a teacher, trainer for a teaching program. So when I started researching about deaf education, I noticed there's many issues. And for the past 100 years, deaf education has been praised, and that's really not the case. There are many students, deaf students in the system who struggle and they fail reading and writing, and this has an effect on their future lives as far as the workplace, and they are not successful. And this concerned me, and I thought, what can be done to change the approach on deaf education? So last year, I had moved to enter a teacher training program. And there are many issues when it comes to deaf education, but we really just need to focus on one. And we're not going to dissolve all the problems, but we can improve them over time. That's really my interest. And the best solution that I found to try to improve deaf education was to talk to deaf people who have grown up in the deaf education system, and to hear their stories and their struggles and their complaints. And the reason for this is because how they have grown up and how they are in their life as far as work or anything, that is the discussion.
Open.
And when I was talking to them, I noticed it's the same old story from 100 years ago to now, and to even our new generations. When I talk about the same old story, I'm talking about language and communication issues. And language and communication is a big discussion. It's a very complex, hot topic, and it'll probably never stop being discussed. And deaf students who first enter a classroom go and sit down, and they're taught it's very important to look at the teacher and pay attention to the teacher. But what if the teacher is not a skilled signer? This is very difficult for the student because now they're trying to analyze what the teacher is trying to communicate to them, and everything's going over their head. And then also too, the relationship between the teacher and the deaf student is not valued. Now I've noticed from my experience that the hearing culture, the hearing way of teaching the deaf, is there's a lot of emphasis on speech and auditory. And when there is this approach on deaf education, and students are constantly practicing on the speech and auditory skills, it's not going to be fun for them. If you ask any deaf person about their school experience growing up, you're going to hear a lot of negativity, the complaining, and things like that. Now, sometimes there will be, a student says, oh, I love school growing up. And that's because they had a good learning environment, a good support system, competent teachers who pay attention to them. But most of the deaf community who've grown up in that system still struggle and fail. And really, if we look at deaf education and try to improve it, that group who still struggles and fails, they'll improve, and so will the other students who've had a good growing up experience. Now, we've been talking about this group who have been struggling in the deaf education system. Now let's look back at the teacher. It's interesting that there is a correlation between the two and how deaf students are learning. So really what I think we need to focus on is properly training the teacher on deaf education. So I was researching different teacher training programs from about 60 different colleges, and I looked at their curriculum and their courses. And I've noticed all across the board that many of the courses focused on auditory and speech. So I saw that when I was looking for sign language. There was nothing in the courses about sign language. It was not a requirement in the teacher training program to have any exposure, any knowledge of sign language. And this is from over 60 different teacher training programs that don't require anything connected to sign language.